The end credit is really weird for me because it just feels very tonally different to the rest of the movie. It doesn't feel like David Sandberg actually directed it. It feels more like it was done by James Gunn, just by like the kind of humor. Shazam was in it and he was just shooting cans, but he was so childlike and it just felt kind of out of character because the whole plot of the movie was he is part of a family and yes, he can do solo, but usually when they're superheroing and stuff like that and they're using their power, they are together. So to have him kind of being alone, just shooting cans of all things, it felt really weird. And then you had John and Harcourt from Peacemaker, James Gunn's wife. They basically approach him. They're doing a bit of banter, walking through the woods. They approach him and they're like, "Do you want to join the JSA?" Now, there's a bit of a gag where they mention Justice League because, of course, they got the same similar names, and then they mention the Authority. But it's like, are you trying to connect to Black Adam? Are you trying to connect to the new DCU that James Gunn is building? Like, what are you actually trying to achieve? It just felt very confusing and very out of place. It didn't make sense to connect it to Black Adam because Black Adam has been confirmed to not continue under James Gunn. The hierarchy of power has changed. And like, they could have just not had an end credit. Like, movies don't need an end credit. And this, like, people are already confused about what characters are going to be staying, what characters are going to be going, and stuff like that. So it's kind of shoved this in there. It's half old DCEU, half Gunn's ideas, and it's like, okay, well, what's going on? Like, it's baffling. It really is baffling. I would actually love for the GSA to come back and have their own movie. I don't necessarily need a Justice League. I know a lot of people are going to be rolling their eyes at that, but I don't need Justice League. Like, I'm happy with all those characters having solo movies of their own, and just give me a JSA movie. And then, yeah, if Shazam doesn't continue because of the poor box office results, give me a JSA movie of him in it and Hawkman. That would be epic. There was also a second end credit, which unfortunately I didn't watch, but I have read up on. It featured Mr. Mind and Savannah again. I don't know why they didn't include them in this movie because it really, really kind of went, oh yeah, this is the sequel. But going by interviews of what David said, he was like, he liked the realism and the down to earth. But the thing is with Shazam, it's all about magic. It's all about, fantasy. It's all about stuff that's a bit different, a bit weird. And to have like kind of a grounded setting, whilst it did work in these two movies, kind of see that people aren't interested in it. People loved Aquaman because you were diving deep into Atlantis, you're exploring these whole new worlds that were drenched in fantasy. And most filmmakers take the Nolan approach with DC and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to ground it in reality. And I'll be honest, it's kind of boring. It's done. Like, you've done it so many times. You even did Superman of all things. He's no longer with it. He's going back to doing horror, which is fair enough. I look forward to that because the horror elements in this were superb. I am getting sidetracked and off track. I would like to see Mr. Mind come back and be a bigger threat, but I just don't see it happening. Like, after you shoehorned him into the first end credit and then didn't use him, putting him into the sequel, and like, it just seems like he's a gag at this point. Aside from that, I do actually really, really enjoy the movie, and I am going to be doing kind of an in-depth review of it. So yeah, wait for that. I'll catch you in the next one.